Well, Democrats continuing their personal attacks on President Trump this weekend, calling into question his knowledge of the civil rights movement. Watch.
I think the person we have in Washington today is uncaring, know very, very little about the struggle and the history of the civil rights movement.
Well, here to weigh in, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Fox News contributor Dr. Alveda King. Dr. King, great to see you this morning. Just on the face, listening to what he had to say. David Axelrod the other day in an interview with Representative had this to say and pushed back on this whole George Wallace comparison. I want to play this and get your take on it.
What about the president and his actions suggest to you that he is in that tradition, the tradition of a famed, notorious segregationist?
Well, I think this president right now is asking for the records, the voter registration records of people all over America. That is a form of intimidation. That's a form of harassment.
Dr. King, your thoughts?
Well, first I'd like to say that the president, of course, is leading the charge for civil rights today for the little unborn persons in the womb who have a right to live. I'm director of Civil Rights for the Unborn, and I say that everybody's civil rights count, from the womb to the tomb, the young, the old, the sick, the elderly, the babies in the womb, and everything. And so the president is certainly fighting for civil rights today, and he has surrounded himself with African-American leaders and everyone that is supporting. We don't have to defend the president. I believe President Trump might agree that we are defending America. He's leading the charge and we're supporting him. Now, at the African American Museum, for example, he was knowledgeable of much of the history of African Americans, and when we stopped and we looked at some of the displays, the little slave manacles and things, he said, this is terrible. You can't do that to people. And so President Trump is surrounding himself with knowledgeable people. President Trump himself is a very brilliant man. I believe he's compassionate. If you go and look at all of the executive orders, the things for women in science, for African American education, for moving into our communities with Dr. Ben Carson at HUD, there are so many things that he's doing. And he's working with African American leaders.
The problem is, Doctor, is people are lazy and they don't want to actually look at the right things that are being done. It's an easy attack line, right, for Democrats to constantly hit Republicans for being racist. Why do they always pull that card?
Well, the race card being played, and I know that Congressman Lewis, who I hold in great esteem from the civil rights movement of the 20th century, when we marched and went to jail and faced guns and dogs and billy clubs, so people don't really know that history. There are many. If you didn't live it and walk it, you may not know the history the way Congressman Lewis does or that I do. But I want to remind the congressman, he's one of the greatest defenders of nonviolent conflict resolution, extending that olive branch. So everybody in America needs to do homework and stop playing the race card.
I wish we could have you on all morning, but we're going to have more Fox and Friends right after this.
For sale, Lakes